I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Jake, and I've been with my wife, Emily, for about 5 years now. We met in college and got married pretty young. At first, everything was perfect. She was the girl I always wanted, smart, funny, a little bitchy, but in a cute way. We had a good life, or so I thought. We'd been through our ups and downs, but overall, I'd say we were solid, or so I believed. Lately, though, things started feeling off. Emily became distant, more irritable, snapping at me over small things. She'd stay out late without telling me where she was going. When I'd ask, she'd brush it off, say she was with her friends or running errands. I tried to brush it off too. I mean, people get busy, right? But the little things kept piling up. Her phone buzzing constantly late at night, her changing her passwords, lying about where she was. I brushed it under the rug, convinced maybe I was just overthinking it, maybe I was paranoid. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. Then one day, I noticed her behavior was just too different. She was acting weird around me, always on her phone, hiding her screen when I came near. She started taking long showers, locked herself in the bathroom for what felt like forever. I'd catch her in little lies. I'd ask her about a late night out, and she'd say she was at her friend Lisa's house, but I'd find out Lisa was out of town that week. Slowly, I started snooping, not because I wanted to invade her privacy, but because I couldn't shake this gnawing feeling that I was losing her, that whatever we had was slipping away. And then I found something that shattered me. It was a receipt for a hotel, a supposedly innocent one, but it was dated the night she said she was at her friend. I saw her name, her number, and a guy's name I didn't recognize. The hotel was only 20 minutes from our place, and the receipt was tucked away in her purse when she wasn't looking. I couldn't believe my eyes. I felt this cold rush of dread, like my world was cracking open. I looked through her messages next, and that's when I saw it. Secret messages, flirty, and downright obscene. She was talking to him about how she couldn't wait to see him again, how she loved the sex, and how she wished I didn't exist sometimes. I tell you, I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. How long had this been going on? Was I just blind before? I kept scrolling and there were more messages, more than just a one-time thing. This wasn't a mistake. This was a full-blown affair. I found hotel receipts, texts, pictures she sent him, things I didn't even want to see but couldn't tear my eyes away from. Every word, every photo, it felt like a punch to the gut every time. I don't even know what I was feeling at that moment, anger, sadness, betrayal, probably a mix of all of it. I was so stunned I couldn't breathe. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat there, staring at my phone, trying to process what I'd just uncovered. My mind was racing, thoughts swirling around about my marriage, about Emily's lies, about how I'd trusted her with everything. I kept thinking, was this just a fling, or was she really that willing to throw everything away for some guy she barely knew? And what about the best man at our wedding? Her so-called best friend. The guy I trusted to stand next to me. I never thought Emily would cheat with him, but now I wasn't so sure. That was the last straw. I knew I had to confront her. So the next morning I woke up with a plan. I wasn't going to let her get away with this without facing the consequences. I knew I had to hear her lie to see if she'd admit to anything or dig herself deeper into her bullshit. I was furious, yet heartbroken, and I knew this wasn't going to be just a simple talk. No, I'd find out the truth, one way or another. And I was ready for whatever came next. I never expected the confrontation to hit me like a freight train, but it did. When I finally sat Emily down, I didn't hold back. My voice was cold, steady, almost robotic as I laid out everything I'd found. The hotel receipts, the messages, the late-night calls. I told her I knew she'd been lying, sneaking around behind my back, and that I had proof. Her reaction, classic Emily. She rolled her eyes and threw out some pretty over-the-top excuses. "It's nothing, just a stupid mistake," she said. "You're overreacting," or "It's just sex, Jake. It doesn't mean anything." She looked me right in the eyes, that bitchy smile on her face, like she thought she could just brush this all off. She kept insisting she was confused, that she needed space, or that she was just bored, and somehow I was supposed to believe she didn't actually love this guy. She told me I was paranoid, that I was accusing her of something she didn't do. The way she lied, so effortless and smug, it made me want to scream. It was like she had no remorse, no shame. I was furious. Not just because she cheated, anyone can screw up, but because she lied so easily, so blatantly. She turned it around, saying I was the one who was insecure, that I didn't trust her, and that I was just imagining things. Yeah, right. She's telling me she loved me, but her phone tells a different story. It was like something out of a bad soap opera. I wanted to shake her to make her admit what she did, but she just kept spinning her lies. She's always been a master at twisting things around, making me feel like I was the crazy one. The thing that cut the deepest was the way she was so dismissive, like my feelings didn't matter. I told her I couldn't believe she'd do this to me, to us, and she just shrugged. "It's not that big of a deal," she said. "It's just sex, Jake. It's not like I love him or anything." That's when I saw the real her. Cold, bitchy, completely detached from what I thought was our life. I realized she didn't care about me or us. She was just playing some game, and I was the fool who thought I knew her. After hours of this back and forth, I finally lost it. I told her she needed to leave. I couldn't be in the same room with her anymore. I was hurt, angry, and disappointed, so many feelings crashing down all at once. I didn't want her to stay, not after that. She stormed out, calling me all sorts of names, saying I was crazy and insecure. That's what really got to me, that she could just brush this off like it was no big deal, like she didn't betray everything we had. I knew then that this wasn't just a fling, it was something much bigger, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. That night I sat alone in the dark, staring at my phone, replaying everything. The tears came, but I fought them back. I was angry at her, but mostly I was devastated. How could she do this to me, to us? I'd always prided myself on being a good husband, on trust, on loyalty. And now I felt like I'd been punched in the face, like my whole world was crumbling. But deep down I knew one thing: I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. She crossed a line, and I had to figure out what to do next. The days that followed were the worst of my life. I kept replaying her lies and her smirk, trying to figure out what I missed, what I could have done differently. Every time I looked at her, I saw the betrayal. It was like my mind was stuck on a loop: her sneaky messages, the hotel receipts, her dismissive attitude when I confronted her. I felt this gnawing ache inside, a mixture of heartbreak and anger that wouldn't go away. I started questioning everything about our marriage, about who she really was, and whether I'd ever be able to trust her again. I decided I needed to see her one last time before making any final decisions. I wanted her to see how much she'd hurt me, how much her lies had shattered what little faith I had left. I told her I needed to talk, just one more serious conversation. When she showed up at the house, her bitchy attitude was back, like she thought she could just manipulate her way out of this. She tried to play it cool, acting like nothing had happened, like I was just overreacting. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I laid everything bare, holding her accountable for her actions. Her reaction: she rolled her eyes and got defensive again. "You're making a mountain out of a molehill," she said. "It's just sex, Jake. It doesn't mean I don't love you." She tried to tell me I was being insecure, that I was overthinking it, but I saw right through her bullshit. I told her I wasn't going to be fooled anymore, that I knew she'd been with him, that I had proof. Her face twisted into that same bitchy sneer she always had when she was caught in a lie. She kept insisting she loved me, but her actions screamed otherwise. At that moment, I felt something inside me snap. I realized I couldn't keep pretending that this was just a mistake or that she'd change. I saw her for what she really was: a selfish, manipulative woman who only cared about herself. I told her I was done, that I deserved better, and that I was going to leave her. Her eyes flashed with anger, and she snapped at me, telling me I was ruining everything and that I was overreacting. That was the final straw. I looked at her with disgust and told her to pack her stuff and get out. I wasn't going to beg her to stay or try to fix this anymore. If she wanted to cheat and lie, she could do it alone. That night, I was left sitting in the silence of the empty house, feeling more alone than I ever had. I couldn't sleep, my mind racing with all the hurt and betrayal. I kept thinking about how she lied so effortlessly, how her smile when she was caught was so cold and bitchy. I wondered how long she'd been planning this, how many times she'd lied to my face. The trust I once had in her was gone. I felt like I'd been punched again, harder this time, and I started questioning everything about us, about whether I'd ever be able to forgive her or if I should just cut my losses and move on. Honestly, I didn't know what was worse, feeling betrayed or feeling so stupid for not seeing it coming. I used to think she was the love of my life. Now I see she was just someone I was fooling myself about. The pain was real, but so was the clarity. I realized I had no choice but to face the facts. I deserved someone who wouldn't lie, cheat, or treat me like I was nothing. I told myself I'd get through it, that this was just a terrible chapter. But I knew I'd never forget the way she tore everything apart with just a few texts, messages, and hotel receipts. That's what really hurt, the betrayal coming from someone I trusted with my life. The days turned into weeks, and I felt like I was just going through the motions of a life I no longer recognized. Every morning, I'd wake up with this heavy weight pressing down on my chest, knowing what she did, knowing she lied, and knowing I had been so blind. I kept trying to focus on work, on anything that could distract me, but her face kept popping into my mind, her smug smile when she lied, her dismissive attitude when I confronted her. It was like a constant reminder that the person I thought I knew was gone, replaced by someone I couldn't even recognize anymore. I started questioning myself. How could I have missed the signs? Was I just a fool to believe in her, to believe in us? I kept telling myself I'd be strong enough to move on, but deep down I knew I wasn't ready. I was bitter, hurt, and furious. And honestly, I felt almost stupid for ever trusting her. She lied so effortlessly, like she was just playing a role in some twisted game. It made me realize how much of my life I'd wasted on her, how I'd given her my loyalty and love but got nothing in return except betrayal. One thing I couldn't stop thinking about was the betrayal from the one person I thought was my closest friend, her so-called best man, Chris. I'd trusted him. We'd been friends for years, and I always thought he was solid. Then I found those messages. The private jokes, the flirtation, the secret plans. I kept asking myself, how long has this been going on? Did he ever really see me as a friend, or was I just an afterthought? The worst part was knowing that Chris, the guy I trusted with my wedding, was the one she cheated with. That realization made me feel sick. I didn't want to confront him outright yet, not until I was ready. I needed to process everything before I did something stupid. But I did reach out to a few other friends, just to vent and find some perspective. Most of them told me to cut her out completely, to forget she ever existed. Others said I should go after her, demand answers, even threaten her. But I wasn't sure. I was ready for that. Honestly, I felt like I'd been kicked in the nuts and knocked down so hard I didn't know which way was up anymore. I started thinking about revenge, though, not in some crazy way, more like making her feel what I felt. I wanted her to understand what her lies had cost me. I wanted her to realize she couldn't just walk away and pretend it didn't matter. That's when I started planning. I knew I couldn't just let her get away with this, not without some kind of response. I didn't know exactly what I'd do yet, but I knew I had to do something that would make her regret what she'd done. The biggest challenge was deciding how far I was willing to go. Part of me wanted to destroy her, to make her suffer just a little so she'd feel the pain I was feeling. But another part of me knew that wouldn't bring real closure. I just wanted her to see the damage she'd caused. I started gathering evidence, more messages, receipts, any proof I could find. I wasn't sure if I'd ever show it to her or anyone else, but I knew. I needed to be prepared. If I was going to do something, I had to be ready. Every day I wrestled with the idea of confronting her again, but I held back. I knew I had to be smart about it. I didn't want to make a scene or do anything impulsive. But I also knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I was broken inside, but I was also angry, and that anger was starting to turn into a quiet resolve. I didn't want her to think she could just lie, cheat, and walk away. She was going to pay, one way or another. I didn't have a precise plan yet, but I knew I'd find a way to make her feel the consequences. The decision to finally confront her again wasn't easy. I kept going back and forth. Should I lay everything out or just cut ties and walk away? But deep down, I knew I couldn't just let it slide. I wasn't the kind of guy to keep quiet when someone betrayed me this badly. I needed to send her a message make sure she understood that I wasn't some gullible fool anymore. It was time to take control, even if it meant burning everything to the ground. One evening, I set everything up. I went through her phone again, making sure I had all the evidence I needed, screenshots of her messages, hotel reservations, receipts. I wanted her to see I wasn't bluffing. Once I was ready, I called her to meet me at the house. When she arrived, she looked annoyed, like she thought she could just waltz back in and everything would be fine. That's when I told her I knew everything about the messages, the hotel, the lies. I handed her the screenshots, the receipts, the proof that she'd been sneaking around behind my back. She looked at me with that same bitchy glare like I was the one overreacting. She tried to deny it, said I was just jealous, that she never meant to hurt me, that it was just sex, nothing more. She insisted she loved me, that I was everything to her, but her words sounded hollow. I saw through her lies and I told her I didn't believe her anymore. Her face twisted into that familiar sneer, like she thought she could manipulate her way out of it. But I wasn't buying her bullshit this time. I told her she needed to leave, that I'd had enough of her lies and games. She snapped back, shouting that I was overreacting, that I was making a scene out of nothing. But I stood my ground. I told her I was done being played, that I deserved better than a cheating, lying wife. I told her she could pack her things and get out, that I didn't want her in my house anymore. That moment felt like both a victory and a huge slap in the face. I was finally taking back control, but it came at a cost. I felt exhausted, drained, betrayed. As she stormed out, she called me all sorts of names, crazy, insecure, jealous, that just made me feel even more worthless. But I knew I was doing the right thing. I couldn't keep pretending that this betrayal didn't destroy everything we had. I realized I'd been holding onto an illusion, and it was time to face the harsh reality. I was hurt, yes, but also relieved. The truth was out, and all I wanted now was to rebuild myself. Slowly, I started to realize that my life wasn't over. It was just the beginning of a new chapter, one where I wouldn't be blind to lies anymore. I'd learned that letting someone betray you is like losing a part of yourself, but I also learned I had the strength to walk away and start over. In the aftermath of everything, I felt like I was standing in the ruins of my own life. The house was empty, silent except for my own thoughts echoing through the rooms. I kept asking myself how I didn't see it coming, how I let her get so close and then shatter everything in one blow. The pain was still there, deep and raw, but I also felt a strange sense of relief, like I'd finally taken control of my life again. I realized that I'd been holding onto a fantasy, believing in the woman I thought she was, instead of facing the truth of who she really was. Moving forward, I decided to focus on myself. I went out more, reconnected with friends, took up hobbies I'd neglected. There was a long road of healing ahead, but I knew I had to start somewhere. I didn't want to carry this anger forever, but I also wouldn't forget the lessons it taught me. Trust is something you give freely, and when it's broken, it's almost impossible to get back. But I learned that I'm stronger than I thought, too strong to be someone's fool. Looking back, I see that this betrayal exposed a lot about the kind of person Emily really was: selfish, manipulative, willing to lie and cheat just to feed her ego. I also learned that I shouldn't ever turn a blind eye to the signs, no matter how much I want things to be perfect. No relationship is worth losing yourself over. And maybe most importantly, I've come to understand that sometimes the best revenge is simply walking away and picking up the pieces of your own life. So now I'm rebuilding. Not with her, not with the girl I thought I knew, but with someone who respects me, who values loyalty and honesty. The scars of this experience will stay with me, but they won't define me. I've learned to trust my instincts and listen to what my heart is really telling me. If there's one thing I want other guys and gals to take away from this, it's that no matter how much it hurts, you're better off without someone who doesn't value you enough to be honest. You deserve someone who's willing to fight for you, not someone who cheats and lies. In the end, I'm grateful for the wake-up call. It hurt like hell, but it forced me to see the truth and to realize my worth. I'll never forget what happened, but I won't let it destroy me either. I'm just taking it one day at a time, learning how to trust again, and making sure I never let someone else treat me like that again. Life's too short for lies and betrayal. Now I'm finally free to start over.